It's the snowman in Switzerland, and since we're in Switzerland, we were looking for the perfect snowman watch, which I have bought. Now this one is the smaller dial, and it's still huge, and look how thick it is, okay? That's big enough to hold a .38 caliber bullet. It'd be cool to push this button and fire something right out of the 12 clock. You know what I'm saying? That'd be... But anyway, you can't. They ought to put me in charge of designing watches over there. But we call it the snowman watch. This is the Tissot T-Touch 2. That's a lot of T's, but it's a cool watch anyway. This is the second generation T-Touch. The first generation had some problems with the first generation T-Touches had some problems with the actual I keep trying to say étanchéité, which means waterproof. It's supposed to be waterproof down to 100 meters, and they weren't. They were having problems with them. But the second generation T-Touches are much more waterproof. They actually are waterproof down to 100 meters. It's called the Touch because it has a touch screen. You activate the touch screen by pushing this in for 1 second till you hear the beep. This shows the time on this screen. Can you see that? You touch it again, and it shows a second time zone, so you can set the time in another time zone. Touch it again, so you can adjust the settings. And then I keep it on a date. I've got this set on 25th March 2011. In the United States, you would read that March 25th 2011. You can change the settings, so it'll indicate your date that way, and you don't get confused thinking you're in the 25th month of the year. It will also display 24-hour clock, metric, like meters, and hectopascals for the barometer that I'll show you in just a moment. Or you can change that to standard feet, 12-hour clock, and millibars. Here we go with the barometer. Right now it's indicating a moderate tendency towards bad weather. All right, it has 6 positions. The farther right you go indicates a greater tendency towards improving weather. The farther left you go indicates a higher tendency towards worse weather. So right now we have a moderate tendency towards worsening weather. Here's an altimeter. We're at 329, and then 8, and then 7, and then 6 meters. And it's based on atmospheric pressure, relative atmospheric pressure. And so, you know, it will vary a little bit depending on the pressure, and you can reset it. You can calibrate it to your particular altitude. So it's not an exact indicator, but it gives you some idea of your altitude. Right now we're at 320 some meters. It has a chronograph that reads out to the 100th of a second with a lap function. Resets. It has a compass, which is particularly cool. The minute hand indicates true north, which is pointing directly at me. If you use 12 o'clock as your heading, your azimuth is 150 degrees, roughly. 152. It only has a 2-degree resolution anyway. One very important feature about this compass that's very cool, it indicates true north. You can set your position on the globe in this watch, and it reads magnetic north and then calculates the declination from true north, and then actually points to true north, which is particularly useful on your maps. They've upgraded all the passenger trains here, and you can't even hear them go by, but that was a cargo train. And now we're going to the alarm function, and you can set 2 alarms. First alarm is set for 7:30 in the morning, in my case. You touch the alarm again, and it allows you to set a second alarm. Also has a thermometer, which reads in degrees Celsius right now at 33.7 degrees. But that's false because it's on my wrist and it's reading my body temperature. To get an accurate reading, you need to set it in the shade and away from your body, like on a table or on a stump or something, and wait a half hour and then read the temperature. This one is in brushed titanium Titanium is cool because it doesn't scratch as easily, so you can be a little rougher with it. The hour hand and the minute hand and all of these white letters and numbers are very bright at night. And then if you hold this middle button down for 5 seconds, then this dial lights up in a very readable, sort of a blood red color that won't affect your night vision. You remember back years ago when you used to get a manual for something and you couldn't figure out what it said? It was too complicated. This manual is not like that at all. Setting the times, T1 and T2. Following the instructions is just extremely simple and easy. The graphics are very clear, step-by-step instructions. And, bonus, you can learn another language with this thing. This manual is printed in 18 languages. You could actually go through here and translate based on the language you know. So for instance, you can start with English and then go read this in French and start learning some French. When I was going to school in Switzerland as a kid, I went to school in the French-speaking part, so I learned French. And then German is mandatory, so I took some German. And then in addition, you were required to take one of the ancient languages, so I took Latin. And then later on, as you got into school, you needed to take another modern language. I happen to know English already, and so I studied English. People around here speak at least two, and 3, 4 languages. Language is the means by which we apprehend concepts. Language is the means by which we think. As you learn a new language, you learn to think in different ways, and you think different things. It expands your mind, and it expands your view and understanding of the natural world and of people. I think it's very useful, and it should be a part of everyone's curriculum just for their own good, voluntarily.